That means item 3 you can't vote on again.
I'd like to call a planning commission meeting for Guthrie to order for Thursday.
And I will help you out with a roll call.
Thank you. June 11th. Yes, could we have the roll call, please, Mr.?
Chairman Powell, absent. Commissioner Chapel,
Present.
present. Commissioner Coffin, absent. Commissioner French,
President,
and Commissioner Ogden.
Present.
All righty, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Public comments. We have no public comments that I see.
We had no one sign up.
Approval of minutes from April 9th, and as I checked that, I believe we still cannot approve that because we do not have a quorum on that particular group.
That's correct.
And so we need to look at the approval of minutes for May 4th, 14th,
I move the minutes be
2015.
approved.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of May 14th. Discussion?
All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Okay. Mr. Cody, we're getting into discussion of code of ethics. Can you bring us up to date a little bit on this?
That's right. If you look a little bit earlier or later into your packet, you'll see Resolution 2009-12. This was established by the Guthrie City Council in the year 2009 to kind of just let the boards and commissions know kind of what's expected of them as volunteers and representatives of the city. I can tell you that your code of ethics is roughly 4 or 5 pages. Staff's is roughly 200. So we are going by a code of ethics on our own. I can show it to you. Just let me get a dolly and I will lug it in here. So, but if you have any questions regarding it, this is not an action item tonight. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know either now or a sidebar later on, and I'd love to help you out with anything that you have.
Questions, commissioners?
I've received Commissioner French's signature already.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you. Would you like our signature on that?
You
have a form that we need to sign for you?
you list your name twice. You have a signature, and you list what, of course, the date and what board you serve on. For our commissioners that serve on multiple boards,
Okay.
you only have to submit one time and just list all the boards that you currently serve on.
Do you have a form that we can do that for you later this evening or
It's
tonight?
actually in your pocket. It's actually in your packet.
Oh, it is in the packet. Oh, very good.
It is actually the last page of your packet.
All right.
Okay.
So,
And you would like us to do that? I'm sorry.
I
mean,
really
you're
enjoy it.
You're requesting us to do that.
Well, we will do.
I'd love to receive it from
I
you.
must tell you that it's the first time I've seen this. I've been on the
Yeah, I don't
commission here
know.
for several years, and I've never been asked to do that. I think it's a great idea.
I've had a lot of that same comment from different commissioners, and this is something that City Council is taking very serious and was asking for staff to be diligent on. So we are, I think I manage 5 boards, and you're the 4th one to receive it. So I've got to get it in front of the Board of Adjustment here soon, and actually, I take that back. I know that I've got to get it in front of the Transportation Authority as well during their next meeting.
Well, I'm sure
But really,
I
that's
can handle that for you before we get through this evening.
wonderful.
Item 6, request for future items to discussion. Commissioners? Commissioner Joe?
I think I have a request pending. I don't know if I.
You
did-
do, and if you don't mind me jumping in, Commissioner Chapel requested that we would discuss an item related to the amount of time that our poly carts, our trash receptacles, could be left out on the streets. I can tell you that staff actually reviewed this. I don't know that it's within the scope of this commission necessarily to talk about. Staff actually reviewed this. I've learned just before I got here in early 2012. The concerns were enforcement and putting a policy in place that we could actually enforce, and not just putting something out there that looks good and makes everyone feel good, but actually have something ready to talk about, ready that we can enforce and make sure that we are actually living out. We don't like to put out ordinances very similar to the code of ethics that you see. We don't like to just put something out there and kind of forget about it. So we are looking into solutions for enforcement. And I know that I want to give a special thank you to our police chief and code enforcement officer, Officer Fish, for being so diligent in the code enforcement practices right now. So that's a big beautification tip, and hats off to those guys.
Okay, any other,
So basically, you're saying that there's, that's something that we cannot consider, I guess.
That's not really within the scope of this board necessarily, but staff is looking into it still. I'd be more than happy to bring it back up, and of course, it will be kind of a combined department led effort, code enforcement under police now, and beautification kind of falls under the community development realm. So that'll be something that we investigate as a larger team later on down the road.
Okay.
you don't mind if we remind you once in a while, since we.
No,
like to-
no, not at all, not at all.
Well, and I did want to go on record saying that I provided staff with some other city ordinances where, and I don't know if they're strictly enforced. My thought on it, for the other commissioners, was that, a lot of these, we've got a no parking on the grass ordinance as well. And if you drive around, you see that's not strictly,
Everywhere. Yeah, everywhere.
that's not strictly enforced.
Happening a lot.
But it is a tool for neighborhood associations to put in their newsletters. I know that the areas that have neighborhoods, that often goes in their newsletter, and it has people sort of self-policing, just reminding them that they aren't to park, and it was a problem in our neighborhood until we got that ordinance, and I don't think it was strictly enforced. It's just that we put it in our newsletter.
And that's my defense, is even if staff isn't, like I said, we've got one code enforcement office, one big beefy department with one employee in it. There are some things that are going to maybe slip by. We're trying to be as diligent as we can, but empowering our neighborhoods to have the accountability from neighbor to neighbor, I think, is a huge tool in making sure that Guthrie's a great place to live. And so I think that
I know that, like with in our neighborhood association, there's a little FYI section, for your information. And we will put things in like, it's against ordinance to blow grass clippings into the street.
True.
Now, that happens all over town, and it's not going to be strictly enforced, but it's nice to put it in the newsletter that it is against city ordinance. Much like, if you've got a citizen who's leaving their trash dumpster right by the curb 24/7, 7 days a week, it may not be something that's strictly enforced, but it would be nice to get it in the newsletter or in the electric bill.
Well, even if
What
it
about the-
slows it
yeah,
down.
What about the news leader or the electric bill or something, Mr. Cody, on something
Yeah,
like that?
and then
But we
that's
have to
kind
have
of,
the ordinance first.
that's kind of my point on the whole deal, is that even if it slows it down, that's progress. That's beautification in itself. And so that's something that we can kind of, hold our heads high about. And so I've learned the details of why it wasn't passed beforehand. I'm interested and will be seeing that it's being brought up again in the future, and that we can have these discussions. Like I said, I kudos to our police
And
chief.
it is something that I've gotten complaints from, even the reason I brought it up. There's a resident in our neighborhood that it sits on the curb 24/7. It's never brought back to the house.
Well, just like Commissioner French said, I'm seeing a lot more cars parked, I don't know, on the lawns. And I don't know if it would be worthwhile. I'm certainly, if you have an HOA, that's great to put that in there. How about occasionally, can we get that in the leader, or can we get that in our publication that we?
Our,
Newsletter,
Newsletter?
free, later, you're
Absolutely.
gonna have to pay for. So.
Yeah. Our Historic Preservation Commission actually the other day asked me that I would send out a letter talking about just rules and regulations for owning a property inside the historic town site area. I think it's a good tool to just send out reminders saying what's expected. We do that very often, just saying, hey, reminder that it is illegal to enlist an example in our newsletters. I think that that's a huge deal. We see plenty. We actually did a poll last year in our newsletter and received plenty of action from it. So we know that people are actually reading it too.
Maybe just a little reminder. 'Cause
Absolutely.
It's a good newsletter. It lists all of our meeting dates, and so maybe a little reminder about parking in their, throwing their grass clippings out into the street.
Absolutely.
Well, the grass clippings, I think, is important because it clogs up sewer lines.
And, you
And
know,
I see that all over town.
and since Highland Park has put that in their newsletter, we've seen a great reduction in that,
Have we?
just because they read it. But we have not been able to put anything in our newsletter about the dumpsters because it isn't against city ordinance.
Yeah.
You can leave it at the curb.
That's what I like. It empowers our neighbors to hold each other accountable, even if, because.
And there are other cities, I mean, Oklahoma City, they have to bring it back. Bartlesville has to bring it back. I can't remember.
Bartlesville's the one that you gave me that's still sitting on the very, very top that we're looking through. So,
Mustang maybe, and those are I just looked up 3 real quickly, and they sort of give them 24 hours to get it back from the curb to behind the front profile of the house. So they're not on the porch, so they're not in front of the house,
On the
just around to
driveway,
the
yeah.
side, you know.
Makes the place look better. Commissioner French, you got any requests for items of discussion?
Not at this
The only thing
time.
I might bring up then, Mr. Director Mosley, is our item on action 4, of our minutes from our last meeting. How's that moving along? Commissioner Chapel and French approved the
You talked
request.
about that storage shed down on South Division?
It's gonna be gone
that-
next week.
Okay, that along with the other items that we were gonna, wondered if, were we
I
gonna?
just made a call on that today.
Okay.
It's gonna be gone next week.
Okay.
Are we are we thinking about a workshop down the line here to kind of work on that stuff on action 4 there, where we were, some of those things that are noted?
you actually voted to make the recommendation, and so that recommendation will be going to city council. So, no, a workshop's
further-
not planned because you've had the workshop previously, and that's why the recommendation was made last month. But, and I just want to say that you will actually see the language for number 6 listed in future agendas. It's something new that we've put on, but it's something that allows you guys an opportunity to have outside of board or commission comments, just something that might be on your mind that you want to investigate. It always allows for, kind of commentary about moving forward with, progressive different ideas. We looked at the workshop earlier this year, and you saw some of those things added to the agenda from last month, and so it just kind of gives us continued flexibility in working on new policies and procedures.
When will that item be going to the city council? And I know, we have a new council, and they've
Yeah.
got a lot of things on their plate to get started.
Exactly. And so I'd probably assume that it's going to be this summer for sure.
Okay.
This summer for sure. So, and I will be more than happy to give you guys an update when that happens and is either approved or denied by city council.
Okay. Staff comments, Mr. Mosley.
Oh, I've spoken too much tonight anyway, so thank you guys again for your volunteering of your time and service to your community. And thanks to everyone watching. I know that an agenda that doesn't have many action items is a little bit scary because it doesn't show a whole lot going on, but I know that there's, I can actually attest to a lot of different things in motion within the city right now that I think are going to have a lot of front page headlines and very good spotlight brought on. So I'm very excited for where we're going and where we're moving forward to.
Commission comments. Commissioner French?
I have a question on the new motel behind Best Western.
Mm-hmm.
What's the status of that?
They have come in for permits. Commissioner French, you were not here when we had an executive session regarding our rural water moratorium on building permits.
No, but I was here on the council when we got sued, so.
Right. Actually, our attorney, Randall Shaded, came in, I think in February, and talked about the moratorium on building permits. We've found a resolution. They're going to be serviced water, potable water by rural water whenever that line is extended. And they're starting construction very soon, from what we understand.
All right, one more
or
question.
continuing construction, I guess.
I was gonna say, are they just now getting a permit?
They've had various permits. They've had a permit on the books since before the moratorium was in place. They've had permits pulled recently for kind of the trades and everything like that as
Because I
well.
noticed there had been some work on the foundations out there, and then suddenly it stopped.
Right.
So was their permit canceled, or what?
The permit was never canceled. It was just put on hold because we couldn't issue building permits due to that moratorium.
Then how were they able to do the building, the foundation without a building permit?
The moratorium was not in place when they were already looking to do that foundation originally.
So they only had
So
a
their project-
foundation permit?
Their project was actually put on hold for a period of time until we were able to find a solution to the moratorium. The December 16th, 2014 City Council agenda had a policy put in place to where the city manager, whoever that would be at the time, had a list of 5 different criteria that could be met in order for a building permit to be issued. They were able to satisfy one of those 5 criteria. So their construction is back on schedule.
They're back on,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Joel.
I got nothing.
I'm probably just, don't always notice something in town, but of course we do our little food dealer. Is that the Brahms sign, is that a new sign at I-35 and
No.
33? That's
No.
been there for some time? Okay, you just, a lot of action going on over there with the Loves, of course.
Absolutely.
And-
Absolutely.
And do it on the, on our new roadway, so
Thanks to ODOT for their investment in this community.
I had not seen, I don't remember that, okay. That's all I had.
All righty.
Motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Good.
We're adjourned.